Recording in progress.
Welcome in the latest episode of the Betting the Pitch Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, _G Warner. Tonight, we're going through just strictly the English Premier League as we have some festive fixtures, sort of. They usually do them right around Boxing Day, and a bunch of things all come together at once. Hasn't really happened this year. I'm not really sure why that's the case. But then we'll get back to Dallas tomorrow on a plane. Hopefully that goes okay. Probably get delayed because we seem to have fired everyone that does plane stuff around this country. But then we'll be back and recording for the, I guess, probably next slate of Premier League matches, plus Spain and Italy. And then definitely I will have to make some lines for France and the German Bundesliga, which probably never comes back, or at least won't for a little while, because I just effectively messed up my hair. We're about a minute in. Hopefully everyone has filtered in now if you're coming in live. If not, I understand. Please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Leave a comment. Also, if I see something like that, I'll read it. I got some new YouTube subscribers to shout out at the _G Warner on that platform. Same on Instagram as well. We've had a lot of people watching and a lot of views on the reels lately. I really appreciate that. So thank you so much. All right. I do have a comment from Joe Dollar that I'll read a little bit later too, as well. And I appreciate it. Yeah. Unfortunately, when you talk to yourself every day, some words end up getting switched around. So now we're here. Let's get into these numbers. Let's find them first, and then we'll keep going. But let's go to the Premier League. Looks like Tuesday, the 30th of December. Recording this on the wee hours. It's about to be December 30th in the United States, but we'll get there eventually. Starting with a big slate of games on Tuesday, all seemingly starting at 2:30 Eastern time, 1:30 Central, and then 3:15 Eastern. And we got then a couple that have spilled over. 4 of them actually have spilled over to Thursday, and then we go to Saturday normal schedule. So this is essentially what they're fitting in here, I guess, because of the multiple cups that they play in England, all those sort of things. But probably no one cares about that. You just care about the lines. So let's get into it. So we'll start with the first matchup on the list. That is Chelsea hosting Bournemouth. Currently, Chelsea a 1-goal favorite. Used to split both ways in this one. Total in this one is 3, and it's used very heavily to over. So what interests me first is that these teams just played. This is kind of a rematch card, to say the least, and it was goalless. So now we see a ton of juice on over 3. Yes, the venues have changed. Chelsea certainly sources a lot more goals at home. But that all kind of makes me wonder a little bit, to say the least. And my first initial lean, and what I've learned across all sports that I bet, if you follow the Betting Pitch podcast, we do baseball, college basketball, professional football, soccer football, whatever we call that, wherever you're listening from. Because I do know we have a decent amount of followers, listeners in England and in Europe too. So I appreciate that. But, and maybe especially for this episode, since it's all Premier League. But I think at this point for me, I've learned to kind of look past recent results or former results or things that just happened between the same two teams and try to ignore them. Soccer seems to be a little bit different to me, though, and I feel like that's something that we need to consider, especially because Bournemouth hasn't really been playing as strongly as they did to start the season. That's probably a lot due to wear and tear of a less deep squad, certainly missing some players, though somehow Antoine Semenyo getting or Ghana not qualifying for the AFCON was awesome for Semenyo sticking around, and really good for FPL rosters as well, which reminds me I need to set that and use my wild card. I think you got to use it or you lose it. Kind of like 4-year-old virgin, but actually in this episode. So in that first matchup, Bournemouth as a 1-goal underdog is of interest to me. Anytime you get a plus sign with 1 goal on Anthony Iraola, I'm very interested in that. Also into under 3, would love to get 3.25, which I think we will get, because despite the goalless draw last time, though that does make me wonder if there's going to be some pause in the market about moving to 3.25. Still, I think it's going to be hard to see Chelsea scoring a bunch of goals. They've been about as inconsistent as any club can be, especially considering how much money they've spent on their team. They should not be inconsistent. I do like their manager, but he came in with a lot of headaches and a lot to do. So I'm not blaming Maresca about it. I think it's just one of those things that I'm not really sure that their signing ability or what they've done really had a lot of plans or strategy. It just seemed to be splashing money down and thinking that was the way to do it. And it really hasn't been that successful yet, unless you consider a Club World Cup something. But Bournemouth have not been playing well, so they probably deserve to be 1-goal underdog. I don't feel like we're getting, or this price is bigger than it should be. I think it's probably right. But I do love getting a push on a single goal loss. And if Chelsea wins 2-0, you split. They win 2-1, you push everything. But I think playing in that game with those type of chances, when Chelsea goes defensive late to try to protect the win, I think it's really valuable with a single goal deficit. If Bournemouth can do that, I think they can. So I'm interested in the Bournemouth +1 and the under 3. Move next to West Ham United hosting Brighton. Currently West Ham quarter goal underdogs right now. All the juice on Brighton away. Total in this one is 2 3/4, and the juice is split both directions. So in terms of movement on this one, might as well pull that up and see if where we have gone. Should mention on the previous matchup that Chelsea's getting bet, but that shouldn't be surprising. And the total's being bet over, which I think is a surprise, but not something that scares me away. Moving to West Ham now. So quarter goal underdogs, that's been the way this whole time, but now plus money right now on the West Ham home underdog, probably moving towards half of a goal underdog, which I will certainly accept and look forward to. I think I'm at a point with Nuno Espirito Santo, which I don't like him as a favorite, but I love him as an underdog, love unders with him. And I think what he's done with West Ham, who looked hopeless, has done really well. And I believe in what I've seen so far. And it's a weird year in the Premier League where the promoted clubs have actually been getting points, which is almost impossible to ever expect. I think it's been all promoted, all relegated the last 2 seasons, but Wolves certainly look like one of those teams going down, and they've certainly showed some problems and probably should be based on their lack of spending and this silly signings they've done. Sasa Kalajdzic is probably the worst one, but that was a lot due to injury. I think back to this matchup, though, Brighton have been scoring a lot of goals this year, or did for the first 15 match days of the season. I don't really believe that that's going to continue. I don't think relying on it on what's his first name? Danny Welbeck. I don't think that's going to be a reliable strategy. He's old. He's been around for a while, very technical, very skilled, savvy, all those sort of things, but you just can't score goals forever with him. I think the loss of Evan Ferguson was a big deal to Roma. And I think that there's plenty of problems in Brighton's future because I think they sold off a lot of their talent, which is what they do. And you can't expect them to be good always, but their good run to start the season, I think does make them overvalued. So I'm very interested in West Ham as a home underdog. I'll start there. And also the under 2 3/4, because we know West Ham are going to concede possession and try to catch Brighton out. And I think they will. But there might not be goals in this matchup either. So I think we see a low scoring matchup. I think 2 3/4 is too high, but I'll take it higher than I made it and happy. And we'll see if we get more from that because we've seen a little bit of money coming in on over. Move next to Burnley hosting Newcastle. Burnley currently 3/4 goal underdogs. All the juice on Newcastle. I'm talking all of it. So probably +1s throughout the world on this one. Total in this one's 2 3/4 juice all the way to under. So that one, I'm a little bit more concerned about losing 2 3/4 and falling to 2.5, but I'm not so concerned about it that I'm not going to play it now. I think the Burnley side is something I'm interested at +1. I mean, it's far bigger than my number currently, so that does interest me as well. But I think at this point, Newcastle have proven that they can't play consistently away from home. / they lose all their matches away, it seems. Burnley don't have any ability to score goals, so that's a big problem unless they get to the penalty spot, which seems pretty unlikely, but Newcastle's defense really can allow that. Don't really know what's going on with the Newcastle goalkeeper situation. Switching to Ramsdale due to a Nick Pope injury, and then he was healthy, and then not being played was questionable to me. All things that I think are worth discussing, and we'll see what happens in that matchup and who starts in 11 tomorrow. But I think Burnley is a 1-goal underdog. It's very interesting to me. Under 2 3/4, I think, is more interesting. I'll bet against Newcastle scoring a bunch of goals away from home. I'm a little concerned about their defense for that under, but I think Burnley have shown that they're going to try to defend like heck because that's all they can do because they don't have goal scorers in their team. Move next to Nottingham Forest hosting Everton. Currently, Nottingham Forest, a quarter-goal favorite at home with all the juice. Total in this one is 2 1/4, and it's juiced more to under. So these are quick turnarounds, midweek matches from this weekend, of course. I do think that does impact the offensive players, of course, but it really does the defense too, and especially teams that are not deep and that can't rotate. So that's a concern for me for both these clubs. Nottingham Forest are deeper, have spent more money, and they've been playing Europa League, so that does help them in the situation, though Everton have been awesome, and I feel like it's really hard to look past David Moyes not playing to entertain away from home. So in terms of where this number has gone, I see Everton is a quarter-goal underdog this whole time, but it's been getting more expensive than Nottingham Forest side, so I'll be waiting to see if Everton moved to half-a-goal underdog. I like that. Total at 2 1/4 is getting actually a little bit more expensive to under, so that's something I don't want to lose. As it gets juiced higher, I think I will play the under sooner rather than later. Like if I see a 2 1/4 -125, that's probably my go time. I'll be waiting to see if some over money comes in. I hope it will. Not sure it will, but I hope it will. And that'll probably be my point to get involved in that matchup. So I'll add that to my list. Again, for the ultimate best bet, 15-8-2, 65% so far year to date. I will put that together with a Tuesday, December 30th, and a Wednesday and a Thursday, January 1st. Those will be January 2nd. Yeah, I guess so. So those will be the two that I'll smash together for ultimate best bet, one from each day, because we only have one league we're going through in this episode. So to wrap that one up, I'm putting Everton on my list at a quarter of a goal. Would love to get a half. We'll be waiting for that, but under 2.25 is a bigger interest for me. Moving now to the later slate or window of games. We have two at 3:15 Eastern time. We'll start with Arsenal Aston Villa, one of the best matches of the year so far. One of the crazier endings too, with Emi Buendia killing the game and winning the game in stoppage time at the death, literally. Arsenal 1.25 goal favorites with almost all the juice on Aston Villa right now. Total in this one is 2.75, juice very heavily to under. All but 1 cent of juice is of the 16 cents at Bet Online. If you're not a member of Bet Online, hit me up at the Real Discord Warner across any social media platform, and I'll get you a referral bonus and get you some extra money in your account. But 16-cent lines are great. You don't see that anywhere in soccer, especially not in the Premier League. You probably see better juice in the Premier League than other leagues, of course, AFCON especially. But I think at this point, it's a great spot to be and one you need to have money in if you're going to bet soccer seriously. But for this matchup, I'm very interested in Aston Villa, not just because they beat Arsenal a few weekends ago. I think going into Arsenal is going to be really tough, but Aston Villa, this match means a lot to Unai Emery, former manager of Arsenal, kind of got clowned while he was there, kind of made fun of him when he left. So I think this is a really big deal for him. And I do think the Aston Villa team, saw it recently with an interview with Ollie Watkins, even though he wasn't playing, was kind of out of the lineup, hadn't scored a goal in a month. He's still backing him. And I think there's a lot of camaraderie and team spirit. I think that matters in football when you're really just fighting to try to keep Arsenal from scoring goals. So very interested in Aston Villa right now, getting that 1.25, lean to under 2.75 as I do in pretty much every Arsenal match at this point. Not really sure that there's a lot that changes that because Arsenal dominate games. They don't really let people have any of the ball. They really restrict shots. I don't know how Aston Villa, I think I'm more interested in under 2.75 than I am in the side, but I do think that we could see a 2-1 final and you'd win your bet on the Aston Villa side and lose it on the total in that scenario. Happened in this last matchup, late night with the Real Discord Warner. Yawns are back, of course. But I think at this point, Aston Villa to me, and trust their manager, trust their setup. Don't really see them scoring a ton of goals. I think 1-0 Arsenal is also very possible, and you win 2 bets of that scenario. So I like those. Turnovers number has moved. It was 1 initially. It's climbed to 1.25. I was expecting right between 1.125. So we'll see where this number oscillates or vacillates from. That's a comment from Joe Dollar, longtime Patreon subscriber. Thank you for your support there. Patreon.com/Real_Warner if you want to join Joe and others and reading all my plays across all sports, including leans every night. We'll be doing the college basketball before I go to bed tonight. Yippee. But a vocab wizard, 5-star review. Can you explain the difference between vacillate and oscillate in your next episode in terms of soccer play? Well, since I saw you wrote that, I had to mention it. And yes, the difference between vacillate and oscillate is I think of a vacillate, you change. Oscillate, I think, is a fan. And I probably screw them up and use them both, and I probably shouldn't. But there we go. There's vocabulary by the Real Discord Warner, late night at 12:10 Eastern time. But yes, so I'll stick with this one where I'm going lean to Aston Villa as an underdog, lean to the under 2.75. I like that even more. Last that we'll get to on the Tuesday, December 30th card, as we've just ticked over into Tuesday. We'll go Manchester United and Wolves. Currently, Manchester United 1.5 goal favorites. All the juice is on the Wolves side. Total in this one is 3, and it is juiced 4 cents more to the under. And here is the big problem with Wolves. And it's probably something that we need to discuss, me and the collective you. Wolverhampton Wanderers are the worst team in the world, it seems. They've been what to me was a pretty competitive team, maybe on the edges of Europe, but never really competing there. And then they've had some bad signings, certainly. Sasa Kalajic, who I mentioned earlier, it hasn't been able to stay healthy, but really never did in the Bundesliga either for Stuttgart and still signed him. Pretty much Wolves basically took all of the Portuguese talent and kept signing them and running through their system. And that worked fairly well for a while, but that kind of stopped happening. They started buying from like Bellegarde from Strasbourg in France and other players really going to Liga instead of to Liga Portugal. And I feel like that's where things started to go wrong. They were very fortunate to stay up last season, looked dead fired a manager who I thought was really great, and I keep waiting to get a new job at the Premier League level. And then brought in Vitor Pereira, who was hailed as a saint for saving a team that really just the rest of the promoted sides fell apart / were already broken and broke worse. So retained him, kept him for this year. He didn't have any sort of plan and seemed like he had no idea what he was doing. And doesn't look like things have gone very well with the new manager either. So last team to win in England, because every other team in all of the top professional whatever divisions, not even the top ones, but all the professional divisions had won before Wolverhampton Wanderers have in the English Premier League. Not great, but they've been broke and have been not investing in the team. And that's what happens, and you go down when that occurs. So I didn't expect them to be this far away. I'm kind of kicking myself for not looking deeper into relegation odds, but ultimately the promoted clubs always go down. So it's really hard to pick one that's been around for a while. But now how do we treat Wolves? Because they literally hadn't scored like a goal in months, and finally did against Manchester United in this reverse fixture, which was played just earlier this December month. They were, halftime, basically, they were getting made fun of about how it should be 4-0, and it was 1-1 because Wolves suddenly found a goal at the end in stoppage time, and they lose 4-1, give up a really bad penalty. Their defense was just all over the place. And I think that's a lot because they've switched managers. They're trying to learn this new thing with a club that's a disaster that almost knows they're going down. And unfortunately, while I do think that does impact their offense and makes unders a little bit more attractive, I just don't know that I want to do much with their defense, because the biggest part of an under, I think, is playing a competitive game, because once it becomes uncompetitive, then the goals start going in on both ends, really. Manchester United's defense is always got an extra person that shouldn't be in there. You should never be playing 3 center backs, in my opinion, against a team like Wolves, but that's what Ruben Amorim does, and he will not change and will not play Kobe Mainoo, who's one of the best young talents they have at Manchester United, but that ship has sailed. Maybe with Bruno Fernandes hurt, that maybe helps. And I like the 3 because it's bigger than I made it. I've seen some money come in on under, though it's coming back towards over, getting about more balanced, but still a little bit more leaning, I think, towards under since I've been watching it. I'll lean to under 3 with Wolves visiting Manchester United. I don't think I want anything to do with plus 1.5. And usually if I don't want the side and a road underdog, I'm usually trying to stay away from the total as well. But it is bigger than I made it. The push on 3 is important. And it's probably more than anyone wanted on Wolverhampton Wanderers, but there it is. And I'm interested in that under 3. But for my best bet on the 30th of December, which will then see if we'll win the Ultimate Best Bet Award and see if we get picked over the January 1st card. But I'm certainly, or second card, excuse me. I like that under an Everton visiting Nottingham Forest. It's basically 2 of the most conservative managers out there. One used to manage Everton. It's honestly a perfect scenario to see a very low-scoring game. I think especially on a quick turnaround, I think we see a low-scoring matchup there. Now we'll move to the 4 matches on Thursday. Then we'll get out of here with Ultimate Best Bet coming end of show. I want to make sure the audio is working. No complaints. Thank you all of you that are here live or that have come in and out and come in and come out. We'll go to Crystal Palace hosting Fulham. Currently, Palace are a quarter goal favorite at home with almost all the juice. Total in this one is 2.5, and it's juiced very heavily to under, just 1 cent to the over. In terms of movement on this one, we've seen a little bit of money coming in on Fulham as they were plus money, getting odds on the quarter of a goal. Now they're, I guess, looking more entrenched as a quarter goal underdog, though I wouldn't be shocked if that closes a half, probably expensive half, but their total is 2.5. It has gotten a little bit of under money. And I think that's because Fulham are not used to playing multiple matches in this short of a period of time. They do have the extra couple of days, which is a big deal. Thank you to New Year's, and Crystal Palace probably playing in Europa League, which does mean Crystal Palace are more used to playing multiple matches across a week. But their manager, who's been awesome, Oliver Glasner, who I've been following since the Bundesliga, and I think he's been a huge reason my bankroll has been so good so far this season and last season. And once he kind of got off the kind of slow start and things started to work for him, he's been awesome. But he's complaining about not having a deep enough squad, and he's pretty much already lost Daniel Munoz, their really game changer right wing back, who's a goal scorer that plays defense, sort of great FPL asset as well. And I think they're going to do some work, but they might lose Mark Gahey in January to Liverpool is my guess. So that's a big deal. We'll see what happens there. But because he's a really important defender, and they've already starting to lose some other players as well. And that's a big deal. And we'll see if Crystal Palace, who've been overachieving all season, a lot because of good management, but also overachieving, you eventually revert to the mean. I don't know that Fulham is really the side I want to play against them with. I do like Fulham, but I don't really like them as a road underdog of only a quarter goal to one of the best teams that's been overachieving all year. I think for me, under 2.5 is more interesting just because I don't know that I want to fade Crystal Palace, and I especially don't want to fade them at home. And to that end, I don't know that I want to really fade their goal scoring with an under 2.5. So that's my current lean. It's not a very strong one, as every word I seem to spit out after that makes me less and less interested. Next matchup, we'll go to Liverpool hosting Leeds. This is a wild one. I think goals at halftime finished 3-3 with a late goal from Leeds. Liverpool currently 1-goal favorites, a little bit more juice. Total in this one is 2.75, juiced all the way to over. It looked like it's trending towards 3. What to do with Liverpool at this point is a big question, I think. In terms of movement on this one, we've seen this climb we've actually seen some money come in on Leeds, so that's interesting, but I think makes sense based on how poor Liverpool have been. And Leeds fallen, I think, 2-0 behind, getting a fortunate penalty kick from just another brain fart from Ibrahim Konate, who does have those in him, has done a really good job of doing less of those since he came to Liverpool, but there was a bunch early, and the team was just so good that it didn't matter. But now where they're really close to their opponents, it's been really difficult and challenging. Leeds are much worse away from home. They really ride their home crowd. Don't have that here. That is a concern for me. The full goal of insurance might be enough for me, though it's a little smaller than I made it. It doesn't look like it's going to trend back towards the 1.25 I was hoping for. Total in this one, I think it's the problem with Leeds. I don't really trust them to score goals, which makes me like under. I do think Liverpool have goals in them, especially now without the distraction of Mohamed Salah, who's now in Morocco playing with Egypt for the AFCON, which I think was good riddance because that was becoming a big problem. Arne Slot was literally answering post-Champions League matches about if he had played his last minutes for Liverpool, which is crazy, considering how beloved he was just, 6 months ago. But at this point, I think I'm interested in Leeds. I'm interested in the under if it gets to 3. Certainly pointing that direction, but I got to say this, the more I talk about this one, the less interest I have in it. So I'll lean that way, but not sure that I love it just yet. It's the last 2 matchups before we get to an ultimate best bet. We'll start with Brentford hosting Tottenham, and crazy that Thomas Frank would leave Brentford for Tottenham, and then Tottenham's going to go to Brentford, and they are a quarter goal underdog. But the market has not liked Tottenham for a while. Performances have been inconsistent, as you would expect from Tottenham, but it's kind of crazy to see that budget, a quarter goal underdog on the road at Brentford, though Brentford's scalps have been incredible so far this season. Total in this one's 2.5, and it's just more to the over pretty heavily, but I don't know. Brentford are a goal scoring team, and Tottenham's going to go in there and defend. As crazy that sounds to say, that's what's going to happen. It's really, really wild. In terms of movement, we've seen a little money coming in on Brentford, surprisingly, after I think everyone was surprised that Tottenham was installed as a quarter goal underdog. In terms of the total, we've seen some money come in on over, and that's pretty much telling me that people are betting Brentford against Tottenham, which does fit kind of the disrespect or disregard, disbelief in this Tottenham side. At some point, the players are just so much more talented than what Brentford have. And I mean, Brentford aren't used to playing 2 matches so quickly, though Saturday or Sunday to Thursday is not so bad compared to what would have been if this was a Tuesday matchup. But I got to say the talent of Tottenham should ring through. Thomas Frank is a great manager. He should certainly know how to defend these set pieces from long throws, but at the same time, no one's been able to defend it. So maybe he can't either. I don't think Brentford are that strong with it. I think the other teams should be doing it. I think Tottenham have certainly started to add it into their game as well, as everyone should. I'll lean to the bigger club as a quarter goal underdog away from home, but that does seem to be a little bit of a scary scenario. And last but not least, we'll do Sunderland hosting Manchester City. Currently, Sunderland 1.25 goal underdogs, a little bit more juice. Total in this one is 3, juiced very heavily to under. I love that 3. It's very important to me to have. And that certainly has been oscillating. I'm going to oscillate. I didn't look this up, Joe, so I hope I'm right. Joe Dollar, longtime Patreon subscriber, patreon.com/real_Morning, in case you missed that earlier. But Sunderland 1.25 goal underdogs. They went to Manchester City as big dogs, lost, I think 3-0 under hit, which was nice to save some of my bacon from the loss on the side, because Sunderland is a big underdog. I'm backing them every time pretty much. But Sunderland gave up an outside the box goal from Ruben Diaz, then a header from Joseph Guardiola, and one more goal. And unfortunately, when you get center back scoring multiple goals, that's never going to be good for covering the spread or hitting the under, but luckily it did. Manchester City have been awesome, but are still pretty inconsistent. The defense is certainly problematic, which does make that total concerning. But I think Sunderland are going to have a big, huge, the crowd's going to buoy them the whole time, and they're going to be in good shape. I think I like side better than total here, surprisingly, though there's less sort of insurance if you're not expecting Sunderland to score much, which I'm not. But I like the 1.25, and I think I like the under 3. I don't think I'll play 2 3/4, as I just don't really want to play unders with Man City unless I feel like I'm getting the best of it. Which at 3, you could argue you might not be, but I don't think we're seeing 3.25 here. So I think that's pretty safe. But Sunderland is 1.25 goal underdog I'm interested in, and like under 3. So now it's time for the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Before I get there, I want to plug podcast. Just did a college basketball podcast with Big East Ben that will be out on the pregame.com pregame now Twitter account. Also have the new show starting with pregame.com starting in the new year. I think we're starting January 1st. It'll be an everyday episode talking about who I'm betting all the time. It's going to be out there. Try to get some decent guests. We'll see how that goes, see what's in the budget. But all that sort of stuff coming out really soon. Really excited about that. And more to come. Pregame Now is where you can find all that on the RJ Bell Stream Preview or the SOV Straight Up Vegas AM feed, where you get your podcast. Subscribe over there. NFL podcast will probably come after. I think I'm going to host tomorrow night, so we'll see how that goes. But should be on schedule with A_Schnicker, depending on my flight, of course, as well. But if not, we'll get you all done and ready. So there's no Thursday night football this week. Got big game Saturday. Sunday is a little bit light, but good Sunday night card as well. So should be fun, and looking forward to a big weekend. College football podcast we did with Lante XX on Twitter. That's on the Pregame Now podcast site. We did that preview of the second round of the college football playoff. That's already out there. We'll see if we do any more updates on that or something like that. But stay tuned at the Real_G Warner across all social media platforms. Twitter's probably best place, but Instagram, if you really want to get me, is probably a good spot, and a good spot to subscribe. I also want to shout out the recent YouTube subscribers. At the Real_G Warner on YouTube, youtube.com/at the Real_G Warner. I don't know why I put the at in there, but I did. Fallet Mac, thanks for coming in. Paul Mallon, Young Realist, thank you all for coming in. I really appreciate that. Still got a long way until there's any sort of ads on there. So you should not be concerned. Just come on in. Water's warm. And make sure you check out the reels. Hit some likes. And we've been seeing a lot of views lately, so I'd love to keep that going. So for the ultimate best bet portion of this show, it is the 30th of December now, 12:24 a.m. Eastern time. From the 30th today, I'll go Everton under 2.25 goals. And on the January 2nd portion of this podcast, English Premier League exclusive festive fixtures day, I like Sunderland 1.25 goal underdogs. But for the ultimate best bet in this episode, I'll be cutting a reel on the way to the airport, most likely. Everton under 2.25 goals. I think that is a dream matchup between very conservative managers. Don't think we see a lot of goals. I like the Everton side as well. But as David Moyes always says, told his young prodigy, prospect, whatever, pupil, Tim Howard, we don't go on the road to entertain. I, the Real_G Warner, try to entertain wherever I am. But I hope that Everton and Nottingham Forest stick to the ideals of one David Moyes. That Scotch bastard. They just go in there, they defend, they kill the game, 95 minutes, get you in, get you out of there, goalless draw. That's what I'm hoping for. But under 2.25 goals is the best bet in this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. And check out the new show when it's coming out. I'll be tweeting it like crazy. Thanks to all of you that are here live with me late night. I appreciate that, of course. And I guess leave 5-star reviews, write a comment, all those sort of things. I'll read them like I did for Joe Dollar. I'll shout you out if you subscribe on YouTube. And we'll see you on the new show next week.
Recording stopped.